everyone. Welcome back to the White Coat Club. My name is Lindsey, and I am a counselor at MinPrep. And today I have two of my fellow counselors here with me, Nicole and Michaela. And we are going to be talking about last minute summer plans. Okay, so how about Michaela, you kick us off. What's one of the things you suggest to students who maybe didn't get into their summer programs that they applied to, or maybe didn't apply, and don't really have much going on this upcoming summer? What's some things you might suggest to them?
Yeah, every single year we have students who are signing up in June or even July who don't really have anything planned out for their summers yet. And so our advice to them is always to first start small, start local, reach out to their network of people around them just to get something on the books. We want to make sure that they're continuing to move their resume forward and not, taking just a month-long vacation. We want to keep their resume moving forward. So starting small by reaching out to their network to see if there is their own pediatrician or a family doctor that their parents have visited, even a specialist that their parents have visited for anything they've had in their medical history, or even any connections, family, friends who could offer an internship of some kind. So just really utilizing your network first to really get the ball rolling, get things moving on their resume.
Yeah, and I always like to suggest to kids too, like, maybe don't spend a full week, like 40 hours in that week shadowing. Like maybe if you can go like every Friday and be consistent with the shadowing might be nice because then you get to see like maybe reoccurring patients or a whole different side of patients. And if you only do shadowing for one day, then you might, see the doctor in a bad mood or like, the types of patients, just might not be like give you the best impression. So going consistently, I think gives you like a better scope of what you might expect. Now that might not always be possible, but it is kind of, I think, a nice way to try and achieve some shadowing hours.
And if that is an option, it also shows a little bit of longevity and commitment as well, since on the common application, in addition to other application platforms, it'll ask you the weeks per year, hours per week. And so then you can have more of a longevity on your resume than just one day or one week.
Great point. And potentially too, like as an added bonus, like if you do form a really good relationship and rapport with the doctor that you're shadowing, they could potentially be a letter of recommendation for your college applications later on down the road. So that might be like a little added bonus if you do form a good relationship with them. And I guess one thing to note too is like if you have both DO schools and MD schools on your list, BSMD and BSDO schools on your list, then it might be worthwhile trying to find both an MD and a DO to shadow, just to get like an understanding of, both sides of the coin there. Right, Nicole, what about summer programs? So we're approaching May. Is there any summer programs that are still taking applications?
There definitely are. We have Rising Researchers, who is a sister company of ours, who has both rolling admission and last minute signups available, typically. So that's always a good option to do. There are definitely others who are more on that rolling basis, and maybe their dates are not specific to just the summer, but you can maybe roll it into fall and just having something that you can start over the summer that will continue. I believe Girls Who Code is another one that has pretty open availability, but there are a few things that students can do.
Yeah, the nice thing about Rising Researchers is they have like typically three like summer sessions, and they even have some fall ones too if like the summer sessions are filled up. This upcoming summer, the topics are going to be there's two of them that are related to like AI and machine learning. So using like AI and machine learning algorithms to study microbiology or study human diseases. And then there's also one that's more focused on like social determinants of health and cardiovascular disease. So kind of taking like a public health view of things. And so if you are interested in BSMD or going into like the pre-med or like a scientific field, honestly, both of these types of topics could be really good for you if you're interested in the Rising Researchers program. And the nice thing about it too is, over the course of those like 10 sessions, you'll be learning how to write like a research paper, presenting your research to your classmates, really getting some good like hands-on learning experiences throughout the summer, which is ideally what we want to look for in a summer program. Michaela, what about volunteering? What kind of volunteering do you typically suggest to kids for like last minute summer plans? Because it might be a little bit too late to do like hospital volunteering and stuff like that.
Sure. I think that this can also kind of combine with community impact projects too. So if there are volunteering opportunities that aren't structured like in a hospital setting, you can also volunteer out in the community, either joining a project that's already happening, like a backpack supply drive for refugee communities in your area, or you can start your own and do a community impact project. Sometimes we call these passion projects, but kind of focusing on what impact you're making out in the community. So starting your own thing could be just seeing a gap, something that needs to be filled in your area. If there's a demographic or a community that is being overlooked in some way, just doing something about it and taking action. I had a student last year who had been traveling around with, I think, a Red Cross group to serve homeless mothers, like just like homeless communities, but she put together infant and child packages for any women who were mothers who were homeless at the time, and then she would give out these care packages. So it was her own project while she was volunteering with a larger organization as well. So with everything regarding community volunteering, always be looking at the outcomes and the impact that you're making. So just, you know, fundraising for kind of a more vague or overarching arching cause, just like for like cancer awareness or something, just like kind of a more vague topic isn't really what we're looking for, but having a measurable impact with lives that you're directly touching is definitely a worthwhile way to spend your summer.
Think that's a great point. Like the tangible impact you can kind of make on others. I have a lot of students who spend a ton of time like creating a nonprofit or stuff like that and setting it up. And they spend, they start in their junior year, they spend 6 months doing those volunteer or putting like together that paperwork. It's really time consuming, but then like the nonprofit that they've set up really has no like real impact at the end of the day. So like a nonprofit in name really doesn't mean anything. So that's like one thing I would definitely be cautious of. It's like have that impact is more important than having like the 501(c)(3) behind you, unless of course like you need it for money donations and things along those lines.
And just to add to that too, I feel like I get this question a lot. Students will come into Moon Prep and ask about a website they're setting up. So they want to set up a, neuroscience education website or something where they're going to, kind of retweet or repost interesting neuroscience articles. And they have a big idea about how this is the perfect passion project. But the problem there is who are you impacting and how are you measuring it? Whereas the other girl I mentioned, with the infant and child kits that she was giving out, she could easily say, I passed out 72 kits, across 8 months of volunteering. She has a more tangible thing to put on her resume to measure her impact.
Love it. Yeah, because it's such a huge difference between saying, you did 70 kits versus like 7 kits. So having that impact is, I think, really important, just to like let colleges too understand a little bit more about what you're doing in the scope. Nicole, anything else that you recommend students to work on during the summer?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times families and students don't realize that they can start doing college tours. You know, go and visit, do get some demonstrated interest under your belt for some of these schools that really care about it. Syracuse, some others that really like to see that you've been on campus if possible. Virtual tours, fill your schedule with those. Maybe take a class at a local community college if it's a course that you wouldn't have access to at your high school in general. It's also helpful, just get on campus and get yourself familiar with that as well. It's never too early to do college tours. A lot of families will say, shouldn't we wait till we've been accepted, or shouldn't we wait until, you know, right before senior year? Not necessarily at all. They like to see that you're interested early. A lot of tours are filled with underclassmen. So I think that's a great thing to do. The other thing too is get a job if you can. A lot of kids will work at summer camps, restaurants. Schools are looking for students that have emotional intelligence. They're looking for those soft skills. You being a cashier at a grocery store is so great. You talk to people all day long. You're just having that new experience that is a ton of transferable skills that you can use in the future.
Yeah, and just to go off of that, I think a lot of parents don't quite understand this demonstrated interest that we are talking about. And how it looks on the college's side of things is just it connects through the child's email address. So when they submit an application, then all of their activity that's associated with that email address will show up in their profile. So when they sign up, as a sophomore for a college tour and they use that email address that they're planning on using on the college application later, then it'll all connect. And the college, there's a college, University of Rochester and Siena College are two BSMD programs that very much value demonstrated interest. And so when they tour them as younger, it'll all show up in their profile after they submit an application, and it's all giving you a little bit of a boost in the college application process. So I think just like Nicole said, campus tours is a perfect way to plan ahead, spend your summer just getting ahead of the process. And another way to also get ahead of things is to spend your summer planning for scholarships. Scholarships are things that you can apply to all throughout your senior year. The deadlines will start even in summer. A lot of them are in August and September. So you can actually look ahead and make profiles on scholarships.com and FastWeb and kind of create a little database for yourself, a little spreadsheet of all of the requirements, the ones that you want to apply for, and start working on the application materials. If you need letters of rec or um, a resume or a few essays, you can work on all of those and get them done in the summer and then just send off the applications all throughout your senior year while you're also sending college applications. Some of the essays will actually overlap, but you can have a summer job all summer and like building those leadership skills and emotional intelligence, and then also be earning even more money by submitting scholarship applications all throughout your senior year. So you can have a big payoff at the end for just one summer.
And another thing to jump back to those tours, almost every school will ask you in some capacity, why are you interested in going to their school? So even if you're doing this in, the summer between 10th grade, 11th grade, if you're taking notes on these campus tours and really listening to what they have to say and exploring the cities that they're in, you're just building yourself great things to talk about later on. You're almost like doing the work in advance.
And nice too for like your college list because it's really hard for kids, I think, to understand the scope of like a 30,000 like undergrad campus, like how big it is. And like versus like a 5,000, student campus. And, the difference between like private and public and, the different opportunities that are even available on campus, like what things they should really even potentially even be caring about as they like make their college list. And just like there's so many things about college applications in general. So I think that that's a big like bonus of these college visits. It's, you get to a better understanding of yourself. So, a lot of our kids will do some of like the top universities, like, Harvard or UPenn or things like that, like, maybe their ED school. But then, it's also, I think, really valuable to go visit like your state university, like, visit the colleges that are close to home just to see what those are like too. And it helps you get excited about them as well whenever you are applying. What about standardized testing? Do you advise students to do some standardized testing prep over the summer, Michaela?
Absolutely. Especially if you're going into your senior year, this is really your last chance to do any standardized testing dates. And so definitely we recommend not starting your senior year while still needing to take those testing dates. And so also for underclassmen, sophomores is the perfect time to prepare for those dates and get your score that you need early so you're not scrambling right before your senior year. So this is where, using your test prep resources, getting books from the library, or off Amazon, like the Black Book for the SAT, or even utilizing the SAT and ACT tutors through Moon Prep. Those are all very worthwhile ways to spend your time because really, even for every 10 points on the SAT or 1 point on the ACT, every points that you get, as you raise your score, that can save you money in the long run for getting into different higher merit-based scholarship brackets, as well as increasing your chances at the colleges on your list. So studying for the SAT and ACT is one of the best ways to spend your time over the summer, really, whether or not it's sophomore or junior year.
And I guess one thing to note too, we have some students who spend their entire summer just studying for like an SAT or ACT, and it's not like those tests aren't important, but students are likely not spending 16 hours a day studying for standardized tests or, doing a summer program or, taking like a community college course or things like that or working. There are going to be like other things you can be doing in your day. So if you are working like, 20 hours, maybe like the other 10 hours are like working on maybe like, career development and like college research and stuff like that. So you're attending virtual tours or you're planning for scholarships or you're studying for the SAT or things like that. So I think kind of a combination about a lot of these things is really key, I think, to having an effective summer. Not just one thing, unless it is one thing that we do have kids who've like, done intensive, 7-week summer programs that do require you to really be on like all day with like all the homework assignments. But for the most part, you can be combining a lot of these different activities. Nicole, what do you think about kids taking community college courses?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. If it's a course that you could either take to get ahead in like a science or math at your school that will count towards college credit, or if it's a passion of yours, maybe a drawing course that you wouldn't have the opportunity to take at high school, in your high school, or, you know, maybe they offer CPR certification if you do something like a health sciences 101. All of those are great options. And especially bonus points, I think, if they're in person getting you to campus every day, understanding kind of the lay of the land, even if it's just a community college campus, being around that atmosphere is definitely helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is really important for them to kind of get that first taste. And I guess one thing to note too is like if you are taking community college courses, like this is something that will be incorporated into like your college transcripts too in the future. Like you are getting college credit. So take them seriously and don't write them off as kind of like a easy credit. Like you do want to take them kind of seriously and learn hopefully throughout the process. Now, Michaela, what do you think about research? Do you think research, at almost May is like a feasible option for students?
Yes, especially if you have any connection or you're able to reach out to a professor and get individualized research. That's why in the summer programs we were mentioning that there's probably very few deadlines that are this late in the game into May, but that does not rule out individual research because there's always active research going on college campuses, and professors could potentially use help in their labs or even doing, data analysis and things like that. So research can come in a lot of different packages, not just a summer program, and also not just in a physical lab, filling beakers and things like that. It can look like very many things. And so it's definitely worth your time to reach out at this point to see if any professors or even grad students are open to taking on a high school student for their lab or projects. But just know that it's definitely not guaranteed. It might take a lot of cold emailing, cold calling to even get an answer. And so it's definitely something that's harder to get for your resume, but it's worth your time for the summer if you're able to get it.
Yeah, one thing I'll say too is like unless there's someone in your network, it if you're reaching out right now in May, end of April, it likely is not going to happen. I mean, you could get lucky, but sometimes it does take a month for someone to even respond to you. So now you're in June, and then, they want to set up a meet and greet. So now you might be in like July, and then, you might only have like a few weeks there. So this one, I really do encourage students to start earlier, like in January, February, even March, just to get a response, because it could take a long time to get even any traction, unless, like as Michaela mentioned, like it's in the network. But you never know, like it doesn't hurt to ask, and maybe it's something that you're securing for later on, or at least like forming connections. But it could definitely happen.
And this is why it's so important to vary your plans for the summer. Don't spend your time doing all of one thing, like only studying for the SAT, ACT,
Mhm.
and not only banking on trying to get a research opportunity. This is why it's important to, or even not doing all community college classes. If you're doing two community college classes, you have a bunch of feelers out for research, and you have, art design summer camp lined up for the last part of the summer and some shadowing on the books. Like that is where it's important to diversify what your plans are. So if something falls through, you're not just sitting around all summer and not moving your resume forward.
Great point. Yeah, there's no excuse. There's so many different things you can do, and even if it's not your top option, you can find something. Now, what about our seniors, like our rising seniors? What do you suggest that they do, Nicole?
Yeah, so rising seniors, this will be an extremely busy summer for you. So if you haven't gotten a ton of extracurriculars per se, scheduled, that's okay. You can spend a lot of your time doing essays and, working on your personal statement, drafting out or planning out your supplemental essays for your schools. If you have not figured out your college list yet, this is a great time to finalize it. So that way over the summer, you can have your hands full with getting those applications in. If you're looking to apply early, for BSMD, some of the earlier deadlines were, mid-October of this past year. So it definitely comes up quick. And once you start school, you're definitely going to be a lot busier. So spending time on essays is a huge way to spend your summer. And then application IQ. So all Moon Prep students are eligible for our summer camp called Application IQ. At Application IQ, we every week kind of go through a seminar of what you could be doing, what you should be doing, important things to note, really so that way our students are as prepared as possible for senior year. So they can start that year on the right foot, ready to go. It's what we've kind of been ramping up for for the last few years. This is it, it's go time. So Application IQ is also an awesome way to spend some of that time.
Great point. Work ahead. You have all summer. The kids that work on their essays early and, like, their college list and kind of have those finalized before they go back to school in the fall have a much happier senior year. Not that it's not stressful still, but they have a lot less things on their plate. They're no longer trying to cram essays in. They can, if students who start early can really brainstorm and kind of have that luxury of editing and brainstorming with their wind prep counselor on their own. So yeah, start early. I think that's the biggest thing I want my rising seniors to really do. Okay, Michaela, what about some things that students shouldn't be doing or maybe aren't the best use of their time?
Yes, absolutely. So I would recommend that students stay away from the leadership camps, the National High School Honor Society, or the youth leadership programs that happen across the country. Those are typically not as rigorous as we would like to see students be pursuing over the summer. They can be doing things closer to home. If you're looking for leadership opportunities, you can find them in your community with volunteering opportunities rather than going to a camp. And also, if you're looking for last minute summer programs, I highly recommend staying away from the programs that talk a lot about they're lecture based, or they're just a sneak peek into life on campus, adjusting to life on campus. These are more marketing materials for the college to have students want to come there in the future rather than giving your student marketable skills for their resume. And so I recommend staying away from those. And then my last piece of advice is, again, just to not spend it doing just one thing, or especially to not procrastinate and seem and feel like you're going to have all of this available time to get your college list and essays done during your senior year. And I always use their example from, not just spending it doing one thing, but also not procrastinating of my student last year. He was from Texas and he did a soil science research program under a professor. There was like 10 students doing this internship, and it was in North Dakota over the summer, very hot, lots of dust. And the student met with me 2 or 3 times a week from their dorm room, just bunk beds in the background. And that student got through like 30 essays doing this soil program all year. I remember him doing like FaceTiming me for a meeting instead of a Zoom because he was under a cell tower, like because they were camping over the weekend. I mean, he was dedicated, he got his essays done, and he was ultimately accepted to, I think, 5 different BSMD programs, quite a few for sure, simply because he worked ahead, he was dedicated, and, he didn't just spend his summer doing just that summer program, he was working on essays too.
Trying to give a couple of like good examples, specific examples from some of my students. And I feel like most of them, of course, are doing like some summer programs that maybe they arranged beforehand. But if not, or maybe they're too young, or they didn't get into the programs that they really wanted to do, then it's like, maybe a summer more focused on like volunteering and getting shadowing hours and working on like their passion projects if they're a younger classman, because those are still like really useful things that they can be doing to fill their time. So I wouldn't say there's like, and moon prep kids and new clients will always ask this, like, as a freshman, like, what do I have to be doing? Like, what's like the absolute must I need to be doing? And, it kind of just varies based on what opportunities are available, what like age restrictions there are in your area too. Like sometimes you can't shadow until you turn 16 or volunteer in a hospital till you turn 16 or do research till you turn 16. So like things might vary based on your age and based on your location. So, all of those kind of things we take into account when we're advising students what to do. What about you, Nicole? Do you have anything last minute to add?
I think truthfully, if you're thinking about your future and you're planning ahead and really being intentional, there's really nothing that you can do over the summer that will be bad for your application aside from being stagnant. So, find what you can do, find what you want to do, and go for it. The worst you can do is procrastinate and kind of spend your summer inside. But anything that you are excited about will definitely be worthwhile.
No one right answer. There's a lot of right answers. So ultimately, I think Nicole said it best. Don't be stagnant, be kind of acting and doing something towards your goals, whatever they might be. Anything else you want to add, Michaela or Nicole?
Nothing
Perfect.
beyond just, again, stressing the importance of not procrastinating. And I just feel like all of my seniors, they get to their senior year and they are just drowning in school and college applications. So working ahead is just the best thing you can do for your summer.
All right. Well, I think that's it for us. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of White Coat Club. Hopefully, we gave you some good advice about last minute items to fill your summer with. If you have, more BSMD and medical school admissions questions, make sure to hit subscribe because we'll be coming at you in a couple weeks with some more great content. But until next time, we'll see you soon.